Okay. I think that what happened, it's funny. I think it did catch everything I just said, but I did have to press an extra button. So I think either they're going to have to rewatch everything that just happened, or they're catching up from right here. You guys, if you're catching up from right here, say the word, type the word platypus. And that way we'll know. If not, you're gonna say platypus in almost 4 minutes from now.
I can see it now. It is live.
Okay, I think, oh gosh, I can't wait to find out. That's okay. If we're a few minutes behind, I will go ahead and ask questions anyway, because it's all going to be relative. And otherwise, if you are catching right now, I'm just going to very quickly summarize what I said earlier. How funny. See, technology. Oh, you can. Okay, good. You're right here, right now. Great. I think the replay will, you guys are awesome. And thank you for spelling this correctly, even though I know I gave you a hard one. But okay, platypus, we're in. I think the replay will have that for 4 minutes. And if not, no big deal. All right. Cool. Jennifer Nichols, if you, I said all of this already, you guys, and it was just like we weren't live. Jennifer Nichols, awesome instructor, teaches Procreate patterns in a way that is so simplified and so easy to understand. And I can't believe myself. I tell you, every time I will deliver technical difficulties. She teaches it in a way that is very simple and straightforward. And if you missed her workshop at Summer Creative Retreat, she is here to hang out and simplify things. Please enter all of your questions. I'll make sure that she gets them. Otherwise, I'm gonna now, since I've waited for so long, I'm just kidding, turn it over to Jennifer and she'll take it from here. Sorry, everybody, my gosh. Okay.
Yay. Should I start?
You may begin. I'm removing myself. Oh, remove pen. Haha. Okay, done.
So I wanted to come back and just show a more simplified version of a repeat after the Summer Creative Retreat, when I was using special brushes and had a pretty complicated pattern where I was kind of thinking, oh, I need to make this really worthwhile and do something that isn't simple. And then I followed along live for some of the classes and realized, oh, you know, maybe I should have made that simpler so people could actually follow along pretty easily. So I wanted to show you this pattern essentially because you can just think of it as polka dots and focus on the process instead of the illustration itself. So the first thing you need to do is open a canvas that is either 10 inches or 12 inches. So you can just start fresh if you want. 12 inches by 12 inches. The biggest thing for starting a canvas is to make sure when you go into Canvas and Canvas information, your pixel height and width is an even number. And this was a theory of mine that I finally checked, and it is necessary. So make sure you don't have an odd number here for the pixels, because we cut things in half and you can't cut a pixel in half. So we need even numbers. And we're going to go to the wrench tool and turn on drawing guide, edit drawing guide, and just bump the grid size up all the way. I'm going to change my opacity and thickness so you can see it easier on screen. Knowing where the midlines are is a great thing. We don't need the drawing assist, we just need those lines. So when we're done with the initial layout of a pattern, we essentially cut along those lines and we can't put anything else along those lines. So those are where we're going to focus, and we also can't go off the edges. There's very particular ways to go off edges. So we're not going to do that for this lesson. Go ahead and go to inking, or just pick a favorite brush. Dry ink is a favorite brush of mine. And pick a favorite palette. Yeah,
I'm just gonna be
so
I love dry ink. Okay. I do. I love that.
I love how bubbly it is and like
Mm-hmm.
foamy. And then also just pick your favorite color palette. I made a Peggy Dean YouTube palette because I see like your green wall in the background and things like that, Peggy. And you were wearing a red. Yeah, you were wearing red one of the days. It was like almost like a kimono. I don't know if it was.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much.
So just pick a favorite palette. You can change your background. I don't know if that's better for the camera or not to have a dark background. I know on Instagram it's not, so let me know if that doesn't show up very well. Oh, you know, I'm going to change my drawing guide color now so you can see it. There we go. All right. And then just pick a light color, and we're just going to almost, you don't have to do this part, but I'm going to show you essentially how I'm going to lay out my polka dots. And for polka dots, you can make them kind of the little flowery things that I did, or some sort of different flower or fun polka dot design. When you're figuring out where you want your dots, just start with some of your bigger ones and think about anything you want crossing over these midlines. And also know that your repeating pattern, that is going to line up down here. So you don't want a circle that's exactly that big to be also right here, or they'll just look like, you know, little twinsies there when you repeat your pattern. So you can make one, but then move it over a little or make it much bigger.
For those who don't know, would you mind explaining how you're making perfect circles?
Oh, sure. So it's the quick shape. So you just kind of draw a sloppy circle and then hold it there and it snaps. And then if you put your finger down, it goes to a perfect circle. And then while it still says edit shape up here, you can move it around a little, which is nice. So for this one, I'm thinking about where this one is. I don't want it to line up with this one because when it repeats. So, and I'm also thinking about not having a really obvious plus sign here. So I'm having some go way down here and some go way up here. And these voids over here will join into a big blank area in the middle. So I'm not really worrying about those right now. We'll fill those in later. So we're just doing some circles. Different sizes. Oh, there we go. And anything we want touching that line, this is a good time. So this is almost my sketch phase. And right now it does kind of look like a plus sign, but it won't once we're filling in more here. And if you want any tiny little dots, this is the time to do that as well. But
yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anybody intentionally line up along the plus. I know where you're going just by seeing you do this, and that's actually so smart to do.
Yeah, because those will end up being the edges, right? And we can't add any more once those are cut, right?
Yeah, but it's gonna allow like the next part of things to be so much more balanced.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I can just drop the opacity on that and use it as a guide. And then on a new layer, I can just start filling in with all my fun colors. I'm going to go to max size so I don't spend an hour making little lines. But this part, you can, and you also don't need your guidelines at this point anymore if you're done kind of filling in anything you want along those lines. So this part, you can just start, you can do it on multiple layers if you need to, and you can just start doing whatever design you want for your polka dots. You can make, I mean, really anything, flowers, botanical line art like Peggy's so good at. This is, if you watch any of my classes, I'm like, okay, we're not focusing on the illustrating because people will get hung up on the illustrating. Oh, see, I don't want that blue and that blue there either. So I'm just gonna I'm just going to move this. Let's see, I'll just move that over there. Yeah, if you get hung up on illustrating, then you really don't learn the process of the repeats. So just kind of have fun blobbing some color onto your a new layer on your circles right now. The reason I didn't want those blues together is because it's going to repeat there and they will kind of line up, which I don't want. So I'm thinking about my colors, even though this is just a fun part of the tutorial that's not going to be, I'm not necessarily using this later, but
it would be really cute though. Like it's really fun. Lauren
so
is
fun.
saying that she loves these tips, and we're also getting, yeah, basically, what do you call it? Like when something's a collective, oh my gosh, my brain. Everyone thinks that these tips are wonderful. How about that?
Oh, good. Yeah, there's a lot of people who will talk about how to do the repeat, but not really talk about placement. And I'm not an expert by any means, but I feel like I'm an expert on how to make the repeat, but not necessarily a design person. So I'm just kind of, you know, figuring it out along the way with a lot of practice. So I have all of that, and I'm just going to turn my sketch layer off. All right. So I ended up doing it all on one layer, but if you had a whole bunch of layers, you can just turn the background off, and on any of those layers, I would go to a really different color from any color you're using so you can, it really stands out later. You're going to put corner marks on one of the layers or an entirely new layer. It just can't overlap any of your work. So if it's on a different layer, but it overlaps, that would be bad. But generally, we're not doing anything in the corners anyways, so it works out fine. Oh, this is going to be so sloppy, but that's okay.
It's cute.
So the corner marks, what that does is it's making Procreate grab the whole entire canvas. If we didn't have those, so I'll take those off. If I tap select, you can see it's not grabbing the whole canvas. It's just grabbing to where there's pixels on the paper, on the canvas. So we need it to grab the whole canvas so that when we cut it, it's going to cut exactly in half that whole canvas size. So hopefully that makes sense. And if you had a whole bunch of different layers, you would just turn the background off like this and do 3-finger swipe, copy all, 3-finger swipe, paste. And then you can turn your background back on. And that gets everything onto one layer. Since we already have everything on one layer, you can just duplicate like this. So, and later I'll show you how the multiple layers things comes into play, but now we can turn that back on. And this is also how we keep everything detached from the background too. So now we need to move full-size images into the 4 corners. We're not shrinking anything, so don't grab the blue nodes. So select one and turn on snapping. I keep distance at max and velocity at 5 so that it snaps like in big chunks. So it'll just easily snap to the center. Don't tap the screen anywhere when you have the selection because it will nudge. And you can just start sliding. You can grab anywhere outside the canvas and slide, and you need those gold lines in both directions there. If it doesn't easily slide right to those gold lines, turn off all your layers except for the one you're sliding and slide one at a time. And it should be pretty easy for you. But usually it's okay if there's other texture layers that are on and stuff like that. It can get tricky.
Oh my gosh, this is so, look at your like you just have so much space that you can just fill perfectly. Jennifer,
exactly.
This is brilliant. You guys, if you missed that and you're used to patterns, so what she did was she set everything up on her drawing guide, obviously like offset here and there, but the cross itself, so that she has this gorgeous blank canvas when it comes time for the second part of the pattern fill. It's just so smart. Anyway.
It's awesome. And then you can just merge them and get rid of your corner marks. That's the only spot your corner marks should be now if you just did two. Oh, and the reason I did corner marks in just two sides is because that gives you pixels to the top, the right, the bottom, and the left. So you just need those opposing corners. So if you only do the two, then they should all, actually, I think even if you do four, they should all be merged into the middle. And then I just got rid of them. So now I'm going to do basically the same thing I did before. I'm going to, kind of sketch out where I want my next set of circles. And I'm looking at sizes. I don't want things to be too different from what we've already got, or it's going to be really obvious. If you have, really giant circles in this section, but not in anywhere else, then you'll see that plus sign that we made. You'll see that plus sign. Your pattern won't really look cohesive. And then I'm looking here and I'm thinking, okay, I have a big circle here. I have a big circle that kind of ended up in the four corners here. And I don't want to line up a bunch of big circles. So when I'm drawing my next set of circles, I'm just thinking, okay, let's make sure we get them in spots where they're not going to look super lined up with the other things that are already there. Like this one is the extension of that one. So if I put it right here, that's really lined up with that one. And get your bigger things on the canvas first, just because you have room now. And I'm also just trying not to line things up super vertically or horizontally. And this just takes practice. So if you don't want to spend a bunch of time completing an illustration and then getting to the final and realizing you lined things up poorly, you can go through the whole entire process with just a sketch first and make sure you've got things where you want them before you start illustrating.
Do you guys hear me typing? Because I am really just typing to you.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't. I'll mute myself unless I'm commenting because I'm just typing to the chat. So I don't keep interrupting. Okay.
Okay, so I think that's good. We're good. And then just decrease the opacity on that and go to a new layer. So we're not drawing on that sketch layer. And do the same thing we just did. Also looking at colors, not trying to get too many blues together and all of that. So my yellow that's on the outside is here. So I'll do another yellow kind of right here. Oops, I need to bump my size up.
People are talking about how like this is blowing their mind, basically on how this is an easier way to do it. This is Brills. They didn't say Brills, I said Brills. That's embarrassing that I admitted it. And then also this is such a great way to understand why they weren't lining up before and now they feel confident. And I just wanted to give you a little pep.
Aw, thank you. Yeah, it takes a lot of practice and you'll start seeing things along the way, even just in your sketch. You'll start going, oh yeah, that's why this now looks like a big X in the middle, because I put these two dots. And also, if you have one motif that is way bigger than anything else, it's really, really going to stand out later. So I tried to put multiple circles that are about, the biggest one, there's multiple of them, so they're not going to be just staring us in the face later. Some of them still will, because of the color that they are, like this one, because it has a lot of light on it. it'll stand out. And let me know if you have questions along the way too. I know it's just kind of.
Yeah, I'm telling them to ask questions, but mostly we've got compliments.
And then this is a good point. I think I can turn the sketch layer off and decide, do I want any, oh, here we go. I need a little more here. Do I want any little tiny fillers? If I do that, I only did one, this green one right here. I don't know if you can see that even. I need to pay attention that if I put too many filler little tiny dots just at this stage, it's going to look like a square of them. But I don't know if it'll be too obvious in this particular one. But back at that first stage, when well, now I don't have a copy set aside before we moved this around, but back at this stage, when we were doing these, if I had put more little dots along the line, that would have probably been a good plan. And I can change the color of this dot because on this other set, I'm gonna make them all of this light color. So I can just do alpha lock and fill this dot in as long as I fill both sides. If I had a more elaborate illustration, I wouldn't have been able to do that, right? But these are just single colors everywhere, so I can do that. Now I have that dot that we did on that first stage that's split up here, and a couple more dots to fill in. Oops.
I wanted to also call out what Tina had said. You guys, Jennifer has like really, really good classes on Skillshare. So if you want to dive into all sorts of pattern stuff, obviously you can rewatch this one, but also be sure to check out her classes because they're gonna like deep dive in all of the best ways.
Majorly. And then also there's several free ones in my Instagram. Oh, I'm doing yellow on yellow. Why isn't it showing up? My thing's not going away. I was just getting centers on everything. Okay, so now I have two layers, right? So I have this completed center area and I have that outer area. So I need to turn the background off. This time I don't need corner marks because I have ink or pixels to all four sides. So I'm good. 3-finger swipe down, copy all. And then you can just turn those off. I can turn the background back on, 3-finger swipe down and paste. And that is a completed 1x1 of your design. You have a separate background, so you can do whatever you want here.
I love it, the black. Ooh, I like that. It's so good. It reminds me of like a folk artsy color palette.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I played probably for an hour with palettes for this. Some of them were a little too 70s.
Palettes are so fun. I could get lost, like spend probably half a day just playing with palettes and Procreate.
I know. So one big thing you need to do is make sure your pattern repeats without any seams or gaps. When you're in light mode on Procreate, and if you don't know how to change that, you can go over to preferences and change the light interface to dark. When you're in light mode though, you have a pixel, not a pixel, but I'm trying to show the best spot. You have a white line and that isn't a pixel gap. So just know that you have a white line around your canvas and it's not there in dark mode. I don't know why. So now we have everything on one and we need to make a total of 5. I always duplicate the original just because duplicating a duplicate just seems like the quality sort of goes down a little bit, but Procreate has gotten a lot better about that. I make 5 because I keep 1 turned off. So I have a 1 by 1 of my design in case I want it later. And then I select all 4 of the other duplicates just by swiping there and select. And now we do grab the blue node and we shrink them. Snapping is still on. Magnetics does not need to be on. I still get the gold lines in both directions right there. And we're going to move 1 to each corner. And we'll have a 2 by 2 of your completed design. Making sure you have the gold lines, they'll snap right into place. And then you need to zoom in and sort of look where your seams are and make sure there's no offsets like this and no pixel gaps in the whole center there. And once you check all that, you can merge them and you have a 2 by 2 of your design and the 1 by 1 of your design. And all of it is still separate from the canvas. So that is the basics. And then you can do all sorts of things. I teach about how to do full page textures as well. So you can add texture layers on top, anything that is a seamless repeat pattern. You can layer them all on top of each other. I'll show you one that has multiple. Well, here's some examples actually of different polka dots essentially. So polka dots, polka dots.
Oh, I love those.
Polka dots. And this isn't polka dots, but it essentially is, right? I've just laid the shells out just like we did before. I added all the little greens and everything after. You can overlap, just like in this one, there's polka dots overlapping. You can overlap anything as long as you're not going off the edge when you're laying everything out. And at that second stage, you can't go off the edge either, right? When we filled in the center, let me go back to that. None of this was going off the edge either. What, Peggy?
I don't remember, but June was wondering. I was gonna say, I didn't think about this before, but the overlapping. So yes, you can do that during the creation process, but I didn't even think about how you could create a separate texture repeat and then you could insert it as long as it's a repeat into like the background section of another repeat.
Can you see the wavy blue?
Yeah.
This? So that I did separately as well.
Yeah, that's so smart. June was wondering, what are the pros and cons of having a 1 by 1 design and a 2 by 2?
Oh, well, I put all of my designs on Spoonflower, so it really just depends on how big I want my scale to be. I can adjust the scale inside of Spoonflower as well. But if I put a really big one, this is big because it's a 12-inch canvas. So if I put that on Spoonflower, I need to really scale it down. And I haven't really tested it side by side with the physical swatch that you get from them to see if there's a quality difference scaling this down versus scaling this down. Maybe I should do that. But so if I want a smaller scale, I will upload this to Spoonflower.
That makes sense.
And then if you're really worried about quality, because we did shrink all of those down to the corners, you can take your 1 by 1 and you can make an entirely different canvas that is twice as wide and twice as tall, 24 inches by 24 inches. I think you can make stuff that big. And you can paste a complete one into each corner without shrinking them. You only get, if you don't have an iPad Pro, you will not be able to do that big of a canvas though. And even with this one, I think I only get 6 layers if I do that. But I haven't noticed much of a difference. So if you zoom way in on this one, and I know it's dry ink, so it's already kind of pixely and fuzzy when you zoom in. And then let's zoom in way in on this one, right? It's not fuzzy. Now I have to keep zooming in and out. So the quality for doing it this way, where you're shrinking to the 4 corners, is still great. I wouldn't do that multiple times, but definitely this one time and maybe even twice. You can test it. This one has a whole bunch of texture layers. This one's got a texture canvas that's a seamless repeat. I show you how to make texture canvases or seamless repeat textures in my Texture Brush 101 class. And that is how I made this seamless repeat canvas as well. So that's it without the canvas. It makes a huge difference. And then I have my line art, just like we did with the polka dots. But I also have, I'll zoom in for these little speckles. I also have a layer of dark, a layer of light speckles, and then the colorful layer is also all done as a seamless texture. So it's no different.
That's gorgeous. Is that your Texture Brushes 101 class?
Yes.
Okay.
So for texture brushes, I teach how to make full page texture repeats, because when you use those in as the grain, it gives you a very nice seamless brush instead of using Procreate's auto repeat function here, which kind of finds different ways digitally to smush edges together and try to make something that's not a repeat into a repeat. And so in that class, I show how to take an image, actually like a free image off of Unsplash that's like a ice grain texture, and turn it into a seamless repeat texture. And then you learn how to make all sorts of texture brushes.
That's, oh my gosh. Okay.
And then look at this. What I do is I keep them all in one file. I just talked about how to do that when I was just showing you on my Instagram live yesterday or the day before. So you can go check that out. But when I make a seamless texture, I just keep them all in one file, all in different layers. And I can come in here and click copy. I think I make them on 10-inch canvases in that class, because for brushes, that's all you need. But I started making them on 10-inch or 12-inch canvases because I do all my patterns on 12-inch canvases. And then I can use them just like I'm about to show you. So I can just go to a new layer and paste that texture in. So it just darkened it because it's on normal blend mode. I'm going to lighten the background a little bit so you can see that. And then you can just change the blend mode to find one that you like. And there's a good one. So overlay works. So now you have a full page texture. Seriously. And then you can also alpha lock this and change the color of it, because it might be better to be a lighter gray and then play with different blend modes that way. Color burn on gray works really well. Certain blend modes won't look good on light colors. So you can play around with changing the color of your texture as well.
This opens so many doors for creating your own brushes. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've personally tried to create texture brushes and tried to do my best to make it so that those hard lines weren't in there, not thinking about how you just create a repeat for it. Duh.
Yes. I'm trying to find one that would be a good example. I think I have an icy one. I give away all of my brushes in my classes, but I sell some of them for people who aren't. Here's the icy window one. I don't know. Let's see.
Everybody is saying it's so amazing. This is such a great idea. This is like mind-blowing. I'll stop talking because it keeps coming to me every time I talk, and I don't know how to turn that off.
Can you see that? The ice?
That's so I just took cool.
An image off of Unsplash or somewhere, some texture website, free one. But you can't take, unfortunately, I can't just, apply a brush like this to a seamless repeat and it won't repeat. But because I made a repeat to make that brush, I can use that for my patterns as well.
Like the file of the repeat you made. Yeah.
Yeah, the one that you use in the green source.
Yeah. Oh, you
Yeah.
guys need to watch that class. If you don't know how to make your own brushes, I'm sure I haven't watched it, but I'm sure that Jennifer talks about the grain source and all that. So that'll make so much sense as soon as you
I
learn
have
about
4
that.
brush making classes, so but that's the one that will help you with repeat patterns, the texture one.
Oh my gosh, this is so great.
So then I can take, like, this one is a watercolor canvas. I think this was Brenda's watercolor canvas. Brenda's in here, if she's still here, Deck Webble. I took her canvas and I turned it into a seamless repeat canvas. And then I used Lisa Glanz's Aqua Real brushes and made a seamless repeat scallop here. You call it scallop or scale, or I don't know what to call it.
I don't know now.
I know. I think I call it something different every time. Whoops, sorry.
Brenda Lee says I'm going straight to Skillshare after this and binging on Jennifer's classes. I think I am too. No, I have stuff to do. That's my next plan for fun.
This is a fun design. So this has a lot of overlaps. You can definitely overlap your things. Just don't go off the edges. Do you want me to show you a geometric pattern really quick?
I mean, if you want to. I feel like no one's going to complain about that.
This one will show how you can go off the edges carefully. So if you just start another canvas, and this time we're going to turn on seamless repeat, or drawing guide to symmetry, and it defaults to vertical symmetry. And just go to the monoline brush in the calligraphy section. Mine's adjusted to be really big. And then just any color and go super small, and you're on drawing assist. And we're just gonna make that chevron. Make a line, let it snap straight. And then I'm gonna move it all the way up. And just erase this little sort of TP area here. So it just goes all the way up. It kind of touches the canvas there. And then duplicate that and drag one down. So I have snapping and magnetics on. Sorry, I think I skipped that part. So it just stayed in the center, and now it's snapped down here as well. And join those. So now we know that this is going to line up with this, and I can fill that. Now I need to go to a layer under, and let's just grab a different color just for fun here. And we're going to fill a layer and select it and just slide it off to one side so it snaps into the center. And then we're going to go to a new layer and a new color and do the same thing to the other side. I'm going to turn my guideline off. Here we go. And I'm going to erase just so I have a way to fill colors. I want this later. I want these two colors to be separate from each other. So I can just kind of erase a line that's hidden by this chevron by just kind of going like that. So now I have a separate thing there. I'm going to do the same thing for the yellow. Just make sure it's completely separate. Okay, and then we'll group those together. I don't like this black though. I feel like there's a bumblebee thing going on here. No, I don't like that either. Okay, so group those together, and we're gonna just shrink that to the corner and do that for, duplicate them and move one to each corner. And we're keeping these in groups because we need to do some color changes here. Oh, I just realized this might be a little complicated. So I need these two to be joined into one color. So let's just open all of these and we'll do it like this.
You're so funny.
Okay, so this is going to join down here and this is going to join down here. So as long as those colors match, that's all we need to worry about. So what one is this one? Oops, I just added a layer. Toggle this one. Okay, so we have this one. I'm going to change this yellow to a different color really quick. And then I need to change this one to that same color. So let me find it. All right, so it's this one down here. And I'm just going to drag and drop to there. I need to do the same thing for this. So let's do a lighter color. No, I was on the wrong layer. I'm on blue up here. And I need this one. And I'm going to keep going. I'm just kind of making each section a different color so you can see what happens in the end. So now I have this one. And finally, this blue. Let's change the top one to, I don't know, go light again. And then this bottom one, oops. So I have red, gonna match with red here. Light, light, blue, blue. I do have a blue over here as well, but that's separate from that blue. It looks good. Oh, I have a gap here. I don't know how that happened. I may have moved.
People are saying that they really love watching troubleshooting real time, considering that it's like not something that people ever go over.
Yes, and I do that in lives. Sometimes I do it. I did it in the retreat. We had a major issue in the retreat. Well, for now, I'm just going to make the background color the same as that chevron. So I think I just had something misaligned there for when I move things to the four corners. So now I can just copy all and turn all of these off and paste. And then move one to each corner. That's it. So the going off the edge with the chevron was the tricky part for this particular design, because when you go off the edge, you just have to make sure things repeat at the other end. So when you have, let's do a super bright, well, let's just turn this off. When you have something like a monoline brush, you can go off the edge. But if you do it this way, where it's supposed to snap to a vertical and horizontal position, Procreate's not doing it super perfectly right now, so those won't match up. But you can do it by turning on the 2D drawing assist and actually turn on drawing assist. And then that will match up just by doing that. Same with that direction. Those will match up if you're using 2D.
Yeah, so you
there
guys,
are lots of ways.
For those who don't know, like you can turn on drawing grids, but then the actual toggle for drawing assist will allow, depending on the settings, will allow you to actually, yeah, that's where, oh wait, can you do that again? Because when I talk, it makes me come on.
Oh, Yeah, you can turn it on here, but you can also turn it on your layer right here. You can toggle it on and off, and it'll say assisted on your layer if drawing assist is active. The grid can be there even with drawing assist off. So
yeah, it's super helpful when it comes to actually staying on a guide that you want. So yeah, there's like visual reference, but then literal help.
yes.
Yeah. Thank you
Well, that's
so much,
funny.
Jennifer. This is so helpful, and you gave way more than I thought you would. But you guys, like, not people. It's funny because more than questions, people are just having these like mind blown moments of like, oh, this is how to do this, or oh, I never knew. So I think it's one of those things where you don't really know what you don't know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
You know,
so
a lot of people will do the page fill and then do their design on top. A lot of classes, and then select both pages and then slide. And that's essentially doing exactly what I'm doing without that step of adding, but that's how you get the Procreate to go exactly to the quarter, to the center. So people might see that type of lesson quite a bit. But using the corner marks just prevents you from having to do that. Yeah. Corner marks are where the magic happens.
yeah, because I've always done the backgrounds too. Yeah, because you guys, you might have just said it, but I was also complaining in the chat about how Zoom's not letting me spotlight right now. But the corner methods, basically, if you said this already, I'm sorry, but I essentially you just need to make sure that all four corners have a thing in them for the repeat to stay uncompromised when you transfer that into like the next steps.
Yeah, and that's so you can turn your background off. If you don't want to turn your background off, then you don't need to do that. Right?
I don't know why it's not letting me spotlight. Like maybe it only lets me do that in groups. No, it should let me. Anyway, I'm done complaining. It's fine.
So if you have a design and you're just, well, let's say you have a design like this and you just want to, you can, well, if it's all on one layer, you can just duplicate it and start moving that. Then you don't need to do your corner mark thing because Procreate is grabbing the whole canvas because it's got a background attached to it. So it already knows you have ink to all four sides. So it's really just needed when you have the background turned off so that you have the flexibility later to choose multiple background colors. Like this. And then you have, like I said, in the retreat, if you were in the retreat, your biggest problem is knowing when to stop. Yeah. How many color versions of this do you really need?
Oh, it's so true.
Or picking your favorite. Maybe you do only want one or two color versions, but pick your favorite. Well, that's hard too. So that's a good problem to have.
Everyone is saying thank you so much. Jennifer, okay, so you guys can access, I put one of her classes up in the one for her texture brushes, but you can see all of her Skillshare classes. So if you need a place to go right now because you're like, why is this ending? That's where you need to go. Also follow her on Instagram. I'll put that in here again.
I have a newsletter too, where I give away a lot of freebies.
Didn't you just launch it?
Yeah, in June. So this one I made with my Posca pen, which is a freebie in the newsletter. So it's a fun one. I didn't want to use it today because I did the retreat with brushes and then people were like, I'm not getting the email, right? Because you have to confirm and
oh, right.
So that was tough. That was maybe not a good plan. Although people could have gotten them ahead of time, I guess.
Yeah, so check her website out too. Is it Layla and Poe? Okay. I'm just putting all these in. Just Layla and Pono underscores nothing. Okay, there we go.
Laylandpo.studio.
Oh, .studio.
Mm-hmm.
Retract.
Sorry.
No, I should have. I have it somewhere, of course. Yeah, so check those resources out. I see I did it again. .studio. Yeah, thank you guys for joining us live. Be sure to check all the things out. Skillshare, Instagram. It's all in the chat. But if you go to her website, it's going to lead to everything you need to know, which is the one I just put in right now. And be sure to go to her Skillshare classes. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us live.
Thank you, Peggy. This was so fun.
You guys, I just met Jennifer through summer creative retreat. I know a lot of you guys attended. And then Jennifer turned me on to Brenda, who's in the chat right now. And they are seriously, Brenda has some great classes too. And these women are seriously like, I'm obsessed with both of you. I just think that you have the best energy and the best instruction style. You're both, I know that Brenda's not on right now, but you guys need to check her out too.
Definitely. She's my art sister.
Yeah.
We're like sisters from different mothers or whatever you want to call it.
I love it so much. Yeah. And Becky, you can rewatch. It's going to be the same link. So as soon as we end, the replay is going to be available. So thank you guys so much. Jennifer, I will let you go. You overshared, which I appreciate. I'm not going to let you overshare anymore. People need to watch your classes. And
thank you, Peggy.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer, so much. And we'll have to do this again. Something again.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, we'll see all of you later. Thank you. I know this is short and sweet.